Hi everyone, welcome to our Supplier Showcase. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name's Saskia, I'm the event team manager here at Heaton House Farm. So this week I'm going to be talking to Laura from Green Earth Flowers. Laura's a fantastic florist who I've actually worked with for a number of years now, and I'm really excited to be asking her some more questions about her business. So if you do have any of your own questions, then please feel free to pop them in the comments box and we will do a live Q&A at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to welcome Laura.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Good. So I just want you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Obviously, I know you quite well, but for everyone else who's watching this evening, how did you become a florist?
Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Laura. I'm the owner of Green Earth Flowers. We're based in Macclesfield in Cheshire, so that's about 15-20 minutes down the road from Heaton House Farm. So very convenient for us, and we're very pleased to be a recommended supplier at Heaton House, and we work there a lot over the year. There's me and Sam up a ladder. You'll often see me up a ladder if I'm at Heaton House, because there's lots of installation work, and we love dressing Heaton House. It can take so many different styles of floristry. But I've been a florist for about 15 years now. I've had various other careers before, and quite often floristry is a second career for a lot of people, as it is for me. But I've always been creative. I've always enjoyed nature, gardening, growing things, and so floristry was kind of a natural progression, really. I trained for a few months, went to college, did a bit of work experience in a few other shops, and then I got the opportunity to open my own shop in Poynton in 2006, and I had that shop for 12 years, 12 long years, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And then recently we made the decision to concentrate full-time on wedding flowers. So a couple of years ago we closed the shop and we moved to studio in Macclesfield, which is where we are now.
Lovely. Yes, I remember your shopping point, and I definitely visited there a couple of times over the years. But it's great now that obviously you've moved to the studio, so you can concentrate on the weddings a little bit more. So tell everyone a little bit about what your booking process is. So do couples come to the studio to meet you there, and how does it work?
So we always like to meet couples, because it's really important to develop that relationship quite early on, I think, in the process. Most of our couples come to us through recommendation, either from venues like yourselves or friends, family that have used us before, or they've maybe been to a wedding where we've done the flowers. So they normally get in contact through those kind of channels. And then we'll check the diary first of all to see whether we're free. That's the most important thing. We only do one wedding per day, and we do limit how many we do every year so that we can fully concentrate on each couple. So once we've checked that the date is free, then we'll make an appointment for the couple, and if they want to bring any other family members with them, they can do, to come into the studio, and we'll sit down and we'll go through everything from start to finish. So we'll discuss all the aspects of bouquets, buttonholes, table centres, everything that they could possibly wish for. And then we produce a design proposal. And what I like to do and what I encourage people to do is to kind of go for the ideal. So we talk about what ideally they would like. They don't always end up going with all of those things because, you know, budget is very important, and we like to try and stick within couples' budgets, but we like to offer them all of the options to start with, and then we can whittle it down from there and come up with a scheme that hopefully they're happy with to proceed. Then we take a booking fee, and then they can sit back and forget about it for a while until a bit closer to the wedding, We normally confirm everything about 4 weeks before the wedding. So if things need to be changed, then we're completely flexible about that all the way through.
Lovely, that sounds great. So obviously you said there that you only take one wedding per day, which is great because it means you can give that your full focus. So how far in advance should couples look to book you, if that's the case?
Well, normally, and it's not normal times.
No, it's not.
Normally we'd say sort of 6 to 12 months would be normal kind of time for booking. Some couples get in touch really early on in the process, kind of one of the first things that they try and organise. It depends how important flowers are to the couple. But I would say, obviously with the situation at the moment, next year is crazy busy for us. So there's not much space left over. So I would encourage people with all of their suppliers, if you really want to work with somebody, if you really want them for your wedding, get in touch straight away and get them booked, because good people get booked up really quickly. So, I mean, we're about half and half with postponements for next year and new bookings. And, you know, we're just starting to get inquiries now for 2022. So I would say if you want to work with somebody, get in touch as soon as you can. Even if you don't know exactly what you want, if you can secure them and get the date in the diary, then you can always kind of come back to it and make the decisions at a later date. But like I say, it varies for everybody. Some people aren't that bothered about flowers. It's kind of something that comes further down the line, and some people it's everything to them. So if flowers are important to you, then get your preferred florist booked as soon as you can, I would say.
Definitely. It's never too early to start booking suppliers.
No, definitely. And if you want the best people, then, you know, understandably they do get booked up quite far in advance. And for people like us that can only do limited numbers, you know, we can't do 3 or 4 weddings a day, then obviously there are going to be the big weekends that get booked up early on, the bank holidays and those kind of dates always get booked up really quickly.
Definitely. So you kind of briefly mentioned a couple can book you even if they don't know exactly what they want. So, you know, if they come to you and they're a little bit clueless, can they ask you for some guidance? Can you give them some ideas for their wedding?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't expect couples to know anything about flowers, really. You don't have to know anything about flowers. That's what we're there for. We're the experts. We know what we're talking about. It's good to have an idea of colour scheme. That's always a good place to start with. And that very often comes from the colours that you may be choosing your stationery or for your bridesmaids' dresses, and it can very much stem from that. That can be the starting point. So if you have an idea of a colour palette, then we can work within that. And we can make suggestions as to what's going to suit your style. You know, if you want something that's very wild and loose, then there are obviously flowers that are more suited to that style than something a bit more structured. So I would say go on the advice of your florist. They're going to know what's best at whatever time of year you're getting married. And we'll always guide you in the right direction. I mean, obviously, we have a certain style that we like. We tend towards the more natural kind of garden style. So I hope that our couples will come to us for that style that we're known for and that we've kind of developed. And also, I think that style works brilliantly at Heaton House because, well, it's a farm at the end of the day on the top of a hill. You can't get much more rustic, really, and wild than it is up there. So the flowers, I think, should really reflect that, your surroundings and the venue and the landscape around you. It's really important.
Definitely. I absolutely love your style. I think it complements the venue beautifully. So I always look forward to seeing one of your wedding setups. So if anyone's watching and they have got any questions for Laura, then please do feel free to just pop a comment in the box below. Or if you haven't got any questions, just give us a little like and then we will answer some questions at the end. So kind of going down, a lot of people ask with different suppliers if they provide packages. So for yourselves, do you provide any packages, or is everything on a bespoke level instead?
Everything is completely bespoke. We start from scratch with each couple, because I really am a believer in that your wedding day should really reflect who you are as a couple, your style, your personalities, and having set packages doesn't really reflect the way that people are. So we really do start from scratch. You know, that's why I like to meet couples and find out what they're like, and we can look at inspiration images. I can get an immediate reaction as to the kind of thing that they like or don't like. So we start on that basis. I normally start with the bride's bouquet. That's kind of the focal arrangement, and everything normally stems from that. So we'll work out a scheme based obviously on what time of year they're getting married, the venue. I do ask them for a rough idea of budget. They don't always stick to it, depends what we talk about. But yeah, we'll price it based on exactly what type of flowers you want. So it can be completely bespoke every time, and every wedding that we do is completely different. We never do the same thing twice. Even if somebody brings in a photo of a wedding that we've done before and they really like it, we'll always tweak it so that it's different. So I think that's really important, to provide a unique look for their wedding. I think also quite often you get to a certain age, certainly a lot of our couples get to the age where they're getting married and a lot of their friends are getting married at the same time as well. So, you know, if you're going to lots of different weddings and they're all a bit kind of samey, of course you want yours to stand out and be different. So we're always very keen to kind of make it personal as we can, really.
Definitely, I think that's a really nice touch, to make sure that each one's unique to the couple themselves. So works really well to work like that. So obviously we're seeing a few photographs going up in the background there, thanks to Sarah, who's on tech this evening. But are there any elements that couples might want to consider the florist doing, other than kind of the usual bouquets, buttonholes and centerpieces?
I mean, nowadays the sky's the limit, really, and wedding flowers have changed so much, even in the time that I've been a florist. Certainly the last 4 or 5 years, it's kind of changed completely. And it's not just about bouquets and buttonholes and table centers, although they're the kind of basis of everybody's scheme, that the thing that everybody has. There's much more focus now on installations. So we're talking about archways and hanging flower clouds, something along the lines of what's on the screen at the moment. That's the beam inside the entrance barn above the area where you get married, if you're getting married in that area. So that's very popular for next year. We're dressing that beam quite a lot. It's just about having one kind of wow feature, whether that's an archway or whatever, that, you know, looks fabulous in your photographs and really creates a point of difference. The other thing that's very popular for next year, would have been for this year, but for next year now, is the meadow aisle. We're doing a few of those next year. So that's flowers on the floor, down the full length of the aisle, which creates a meadow effect, and that's a fantastic look if you can afford to do something like that. And they're all elements that can be repurposed and used in other areas around the venue after the ceremony. So there's lots of different ways of using flowers within the ceremony and the reception to make your day look different. It's not kind of limited anymore. And the other area that we decorate quite a lot, as you saw in one of the first pictures, is the porch, the entrance porch at Heaton House. And I think that's always a nice starting point to decorate, because it's where all of your guests come in, and it's the first kind of floral element that they'll probably see for the day. So it sets the tone, it sets the colour scheme and the feel for how things are going to be once they get inside the venue. So that's always an area that we like to dress, to set the tone for the day.
I love the idea of the meadow aisles. I think they'll look fabulous. And like you say, if you can reuse things elsewhere, then
Yeah.
fantastic. We always try and reuse things in the venue, especially if you've gone for fresh flowers. So kind of on the lines of other services that you offer, if somebody wants to, ask you to make a bouquet for a thank you gift, is that something that you can do to give out during the speeches or in the morning?
Yeah, we can do that. If you want to add on things like thank you bouquets, then we can do that. I mean, normally we would make them to match the rest of the wedding flowers as a nice kind of memory for the mums or whoever to take home with them. But we can do them, including their favourite flowers if that's what you want to do. So yeah, we can add on things like that. You've also got the flowers after the wedding. We always encourage people to take the flowers home with them. They are their flowers. So wherever we can make it so that the flowers can be taken home by family or guests, then we'd always encourage people to do that and get the most out of the flowers for as long as possible.
Definitely, and that always works well, especially if you're off on your honeymoon straight away.
Yeah.
To gift the flowers to other family and friends. So kind of going back to kind of the seasons, do you try and work as seasonally as possible to get the most out of the flowers, make sure they're at the best on the day?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of at the core of what we do. We always try and use seasonal flowers wherever we possibly can. We like to reflect the season in our design. You can see that one there as a very autumnal kind of Halloween-y type design. So yeah, we would always suggest using seasonal flowers. They're always at their best when they're in their natural season. And so yeah, we will always encourage people to go with a more seasonal. But again, I think, with our style, people are expecting to go with quite a natural seasonal kind of feel. And another thing that we're trying to include, certainly from next year onwards, is to source more locally grown British flowers. There's a definite trend more towards local produce, and that's the same in the flower world as well. There's some fantastic growers in the northwest. So we've been using lockdown as a chance to visit some of the local growers. So we're really hoping to use more of those next year. It's a much more sustainable way, rather than importing all the flowers. I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to fully go to British flowers, because that's not always possible. But where we can use flowers that are grown more locally, then we are going to try for next year. And certainly over the last couple of years, I've been using a local grower, a very local grower to me, Philippa, who grows dahlias. She's based just down the road near Dodrell Bank. She's a specialist in dahlia growing, so we use her dahlias whenever we possibly can. There was a picture a couple ago of a bouquet with some dahlias in that Philippa grew, so that's really important to us. We've also changed over the last year or so the way that we work, and we've eliminated the use of floral foam. I don't know whether people watching are aware, but Oasis is the brand name, but floral foam, that a lot of that is used in floristry, and particularly in wedding flowers. It is basically a single-use plastic, so it doesn't break down, it doesn't compost, it's not great for the environment. So we've stopped using floral foam altogether, and we're using much more eco-friendly methods nowadays to make our designs. You wouldn't know any difference. The flowers don't look any different, but for us it's important to kind of work in a more sustainable way wherever we can, because flowers are beautiful natural things. So reflecting that is really important to us. So we've made a few changes moving forward, and we hope to do even more when we can next year.
Yeah, I think you were one of the first florists that I've ever seen to do that. I remember when you brought it along for the first time and explained about the Oasis and it was very interesting. But yeah, it's you're definitely the first ones that I've seen to do it, which is great. Leading the way.
Hopefully.
Eco-friendly floral designs. So obviously we've got quite a few couples, as we've kind of briefly touched on, that have had to sadly postpone their weddings to next year. And in some cases they have decided to change to a different season. So how would you help a couple who had the heart set on, a certain type of flower because that was the season their wedding was in, and now they've moved to a totally different season?
It is difficult, particularly when they're moving, say, from spring to autumn. It's a totally different season for flowers. Flowers look and feel completely different. But going back to what we were saying about knowledge about flowers and where do we start, you can still have the same colour scheme. You can still have the same feel in a different season. The only thing that we would do would be to maybe swap out a few elements just to make it feel a bit more seasonal. So if you were switching to autumn from spring, we'd probably introduce some slightly richer tones, maybe some autumn foliage, some berries, some grasses, just something that makes it feel more seasonal without changing the fundamental colour scheme that you've gone for. So, it will have the same kind of feel to it, but it will just feel more in line with the time of year that you're getting married. Yeah. So there's lots of things that can be done, and that's where we can use our knowledge and our expertise of what's available to create the same kind of feel, but just in a different season.
Yeah, I think that's what people worry about, that they're going to have to change the colour schemes, but it's good to know that they can still continue with the same colour scheme. You would just help to tweak things slightly.
Totally. I mean, that's where the relationship, I think, with your florist, maybe more than some other wedding suppliers, is so important. You kind of have to be able to trust that we know what we're doing, and we rely on our experience of many years of how to change things around. And it is a very important relationship, I think, and it's kind of why I like to meet people early on and kind of keep in touch with them as we go along. And flowers are actually one of the only things on your wedding day that will be a surprise. That's the thing that a lot of people don't think about, because you won't have seen your bouquet or whatever you're having flower wise until the actual day. We don't do mock-ups. It's not always easy to do that. And I actually like that element of surprise. I think it's something that you can look forward to on the day, because you basically know what everything else is going to look like. You know what the dress looks like, your bridesmaids' dresses, what the food's going to taste like. There's lots of elements that you've already sorted out, but the flowers come together on that day for one day, and it's something that you kind of have to be able to trust that your florist gets your style. And I always like that moment of bringing in the bride's bouquet to the prep room when she's getting ready. And that's always a really special moment, because it is the first time that they've seen their wedding flowers. And, that's really special. We always look forward to that moment.
It's a really nice moment. And I think as well, when we go into Steele's barn, into the dining room again, we tend to take our couples in beforehand, before everybody else takes their seats, so they just get a few moments to themselves to take everything in and enjoy the decor, I suppose, before everybody else comes into the room.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that element of the way that Heaton House is laid out is really good, because a lot of venues that we work at, it's not possible to separate the reception area off, and it's not possible to keep it as a surprise. And I do think you lose that kind of element of seeing the room in its most perfect state before anything starts happening, before food starts being served, before your guests come in. I think that's a really important moment. And I love the way that you are able to keep that room completely separate and stop guests from going in and getting a sneak peek. And also, as a supplier, we like to just be able to work without guests milling around and being asked questions by auntie such and such. You know, it's really good to be able to just crack on and get everything done and have it finished and perfect, and then they can see it, you know, in that state, rather than seeing all the mess that we inevitably make when we're because it is a messy job, floristry.
Yeah, definitely. I think it just gives you that wow factor, which is so nice on the day. So I'm gonna ask you a very difficult question here, and I assume that you're not going to necessarily have just one, but do you have a favourite flower?
This is the question that all florists hate. I don't. It changes season by season. There are some favourites that I like to use whenever I can, and I think they would probably be similar for most florists. I really like ranunculus in sort of early to late spring, early summer. Peonies, obviously, although they are a real pain to deal with. They're really temperamental, but we love using them. And also I think because things like peonies still have a very definite short season, you do enjoy using them when they're available. And anything just really that's very, very gardeny, very natural. I don't like very stiff flowers. I like things with a bit of movement and a bit of texture. Dahlias, that image there's got some of Philippa's lovely dahlias in the bouquets there. Always love to use dahlias when they're in season. So that's kind of July, August, September, October. And then foliage as well. I mean, when it comes through to autumn and winter, there's so many amazing foliages available. Foliages, berries and twigs and moss and all those very natural green elements. We really love to include those. Certainly in the winter months, you can get a lot of interest in those when there's less flowers around. So it changes all the time, and we're always looking to the next season to use the next thing that's coming into season. So it's
a bit of everything.
A bit of everything. Yeah, I can't answer that question.
That's fine. So I've only got a few more questions left for Laura, but if anyone else does have any questions, then again, just pop them in the comments box. I'm sure Laura will be happy to answer those at the end for you. So kind of going on to the logistics of the day then, do couples have to come and collect anything from the studio, or do you bring everything that they need to the venue?
So we set up everything at the venue. You don't have to come and collect anything, even though we are very close by. You don't have to worry about any of that at all. We'll turn up with obviously plenty of time to set up. We'll liaise with you guys at Heaton House as to what time we can come in. It depends really how complicated the setup is. If there's loads of installations and things, ladder work, then we'll come obviously a lot earlier. If it's a bit more straightforward, then we'll come a bit closer to the wedding. I mean, the key is really to make sure that obviously everything gets done in time and cleared away, but also that everything is as fresh as possible, which is why we do a lot of work on site, things on the porch and stuff. We can't pre-prepare for any of that. So that all has to be done in situ. So yeah, we'll set everything up. I normally set up the ceremony and the reception first and get that all done and sorted, and then normally about an hour or so before the ceremony we'll come and find you in the prep room and drop the bouquets off, do the bouquet presentation, you know, leaving it as late as possible because it can get quite warm in the prep room with all the bodies in there. So we like to leave it as late as possible to drop the bouquets and things off. And then if we've hired anything to you, like any vases or props or anything, then we'll come and collect those the day after the wedding. So yeah, nothing has to be collected or returned. We'll do all the running around and all the behind the scenes stuff for you on the day.
Yeah, and we tend to liaise directly, don't we, with you to make sure that we know where everything's going as well. So we work well as a team. Exactly. So you briefly mentioned about the flowers staying fresh. So is there anything else that you do to make sure that the flowers do stay fresh for the whole day?
Well, as far as the bouquets, so the bridal bouquets, we deliver those all in water, and we advise that they stay in water until about half an hour before the ceremony, so that keeps them nice and fresh. So that's for those things that are going to be out of water during the day. Obviously, things like the table centres and all of that, most of that will be in water in a container of some description, so you don't need to worry too much about those. As long as they're in water, then they should be fine. The main thing is really just experience. So we know what's going to last well, we know what doesn't survive well in hot weather or out of water, so we would avoid anything like that. As long as you've got really good materials, so you know you've sourced really good quality flowers, and we only use the best quality that we can get, and they've been treated properly and conditioned properly, then there shouldn't be a problem for flowers to last for the whole day. I mean, and that's basically all that needs to happen. You know, it's one day the flowers need to survive for that whole day, and after that it doesn't really matter too much, although we like to take them away. You know, most flowers are pretty robust and they can stand quite a lot of battering, a lot more than people think. So yeah, a lot of it's about just choosing the right materials and treating them right, and you shouldn't have a problem with flowers lasting at all.
Lovely. So my last question for you, obviously we know that there's a lot of different florists out there, all quite different in their style, but what advice would you give to couples who are looking to select a florist?
Well, I would say there's a florist out there for everybody somewhere. There's lots of different types of florists, some that have shops like I did, some with studios, some that work from home. We all have different styles, we all have favourite flowers and ways of working. So if you do your research, and you will find somebody that matches the kind of style that you want to go for. The easiest way to do that is really through things like Instagram. I mean, we get a lot of our inquiries through Instagram. If you like somebody's style, if you like what they do, then it's worth getting in touch and seeing whether you click. You know, obviously with having a consultation, you get to know people. If you get on well together and you feel like you trust that person to create the flowers that you've got an idea of in your head, then book them, because it's a really important relationship. It's a lot of trust. You have to put a lot of trust in the florist, because like I said before, you don't get to see the flowers until the day, and you need to know that they understand what you're looking for and the kind of look and feel you want for the day. So yeah, if you like somebody's work, then get in touch with them, and hopefully they'll be available and you can work together. But you know, we have a really good relationship with all of our couples, and lots of them keep in touch after the day. You know, you still get messages from brides 3, 4, 5 years after you've done their wedding. You know, they might like something on Instagram, or you know, put a little comment on, and that's really nice to kind of stay in touch with brides afterwards. So yeah, it's all about trust and having that relationship with the other person, because it's a creative process, and it's not always that easy for people to envisage what the flowers are going to be like. But if you trust the person that's doing them, then they'll only ever do the best for you, and hopefully come up with something amazing and memorable. Because flowers are, I know I'm biased, but one of the most memorable aspects of a wedding, and it's one of the things that people talk about for years afterwards. You've got the scent of the flowers, the look of the flowers, the quantity of flowers. A lot of people have never seen that many flowers, fresh flowers in one place together. So it's always a talking point, and hopefully a memorable thing that you know, people talk about long after the day. And obviously it's in your photographs as well, so that's really important as a backdrop for that. And we always encourage couples to ask their photographers to get lots of decent flower photographs that we can then use afterwards, hopefully, in our portfolio and on the website. But yeah.
Definitely. Well, we've seen a lot of nice photographs of your flowers in the background as we've been talking.
Yeah.
So that's actually all my questions for you today, Laura. But if anyone does have any last minute questions, then please pop them in the comments box. Other than that, I think we do have a couple of questions. So I'll wait for Sarah to pop our first one on. So she said, hi, what type of flowers would you recommend for a February wedding?
Okay, so February, we've got all the spring flowers in. So we've got tulips, hyacinths, narcissus, ranunculus. Spring is a really lovely time for flowers. Everything's quite delicate and pretty. You don't get very big, blousy flowers at that time of year. So everything's quite kind of dainty and pretty. You also get quite a lot of scent in spring, lots of scented flowers. So I would go with a full-on spring delight in February, if possible. I would avoid red if at all possible, because if you're anywhere near Valentine's Day, then that's going to have a massive impact on flower prices. But yeah, just keep it kind of fresh and delicate. Lots of lovely pastel colours, pale blues and lemons and pale pinks at that time of year are really pretty.
Lovely. I think we've got another question as well. Are you open for face-to-face meetings yet?
We haven't had any face-to-face meetings yet. We've been using Zoom, as most of the rest of the world has, for communicating, and that's been working pretty well, actually. Although you don't get the same kind of level of detail, it's not as easy to look at images and things. It does work for getting the initial ideas together, and then we've been booking the weddings in based on that, and then saying that we'll be meeting in person once that's a bit safer to do. Excuse me. But at the moment we're not doing face-to-face meetings, but hopefully we will be able to resume doing that in the next couple of months, I would think, once it's safe to do so.
Yeah, I think we're all Zoom experts at the moment, aren't we? So there's not much that we can't do via Zoom instead. So I think we've got one more question. Oh no question.
Oh.
Just to say, Laura is absolutely fantastic. Cannot thank her enough for doing my flowers, and you will not be disappointed. That is a lovely message.
Yeah, Sunita. So Sunita got married in the Lake District last year. On the hottest day of the year. It was so hot, it was unbelievable, and she had a beautiful wedding. It was really lovely, and she had all of her gorgeous dogs and miniature schnauzers at the wedding, and we made some floral dog collars for the dogs, and yes, it was beautiful. So Sunita's one of my biggest fans.
Oh, clearly if she's watching you tonight. So I think, is that it for questions, Sarah? I think it is, yes. So we're all done and dusted. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Next week we are going to be live again. It won't be me next week. So that's Monday the 20th of July at 7 o'clock again. So please feel free to join us then, and we'll be talking to another one of our amazing recommended suppliers, and that is one of our photographers, Steve Bridgewood. So next week, 20th of July, 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you very much for joining me, Laura, and thank you for everyone else for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Saskia.
Bye.
Bye.